Hi everybody, in today's thrift flip, I'm going to be making some of these lanyards out of them. They're very useful, really good for healthcare professionals, anybody that wants to put their name badge on or keys, and it doesn't require a whole lot of fabric. And it's a great project to use all your remnants. Great thrift flip if you see something at the thrift store, secondhand shop, and you love the print. You just can't leave it behind. Make something out of it, and if you have any leftovers, you can make them as gifts or for your co-workers. You can sell them, but I'm going to bring you along and show you how to make one of these. Simple. I'm going to show you how to use the remnants that I used a few weeks ago, which were 2 shirts that I found from the thrift store. This is what I have left. And what I made out of those 2 shirts was this adorable little pouch, and I will link that tutorial up above. So the first step is going to be grabbing a tape measure and looping it around to see what kind of length you want. It can be a general estimate. I'm gonna make mine about 47 inches long, depending on where you want it to fall. I want it to fall about an inch shorter at 46 inches, so I'm going to cut mine at 47 to just give me a little bit extra fabric. So the supplies that you'll need for this project are your remnants, whatever remnants you have of fabric and want to use up, some basic sewing supplies, pins, or some of the little clip, a rotary cutter, and mat. Those last few items are optional. If you don't have it, you could use scissors easily. It just helps get a straight line. Some coordinating thread, some snips, useful, or some large scissors if you're going to be cutting your fabric out and not using our rotary cutter. And then the ones that I'm using today are a swivel lobster clasp. These come in varying sizes and color finishes. Obviously the measuring tape and an iron and your sewing machine, and that's it. So let's take a look at the measurements that you'll need as far as the fabric's concerned. We've already taken one measurement, and that is the measurement of the length. But in order to decide on the width that is appropriate for the lobster clasp, what you're going to do is take the size of the lobster clasp, this area right here. When you buy the package, it'll tell you what size, whether it's 3/4 of an inch or an inch. In today's case, I'm using a 3/4 inch lobster clasp. When you do take the measurement, in order for the fabric to go through and lay flat, I'm gonna use 1/2 inch as my measurement. Whatever that measurement is you're gonna multiply it times 4, and that is gonna give you the width that you need, because we're gonna turn the fabric several times in order for it to go through. Now, since I'm using remnants, I may not have the length that I need, so I will probably have to cut some strips and piece it together. But depending on what you're using, you may not have to do this. Okay, so I'm gonna see what I can get out of this shirt. So I'm gonna lay the shirt flat as possible. So I am going to cut a straight line. I'm going to cut the collar off. I'm going to straighten the piece of fabric out as much as possible. And there is a dart here. I'm going to actually unpick so that I can maximize it and get the 2 inches out of this. Always have one of these on hand because you never know when you're going to need it. I'm going to unpick the stitching. Okay, so now that I've unpicked the shirt, I mean, depending on what you're using as far as the fabric, you probably won't have to unpick it. But you'll be left with the little holes, and that's an easy fix. From where the stitching was, you just spray it with some water. And because this is a woven cotton fabric, it's easy to get the little holes out of it with a little steam and some heat. You could just run your finger in the directions of the weave, and it will move those fabrics right back into place and will eliminate the little spots so you don't see them. Okay, so I'm going to square off the bottom and cut this piece off. Now that I have a right angle, I'm going to cut 2 inches wide strip. See if I can get another 2-inch strip out of this. My ruler shifted. I'm going to piece these two together by placing right sides together and stitching 1/4 inch from the edge at a 2.5 millimeter stitch length. Back stitch at the beginning and end. And I'm going to just measure it and make sure that I have 47 inches. All right, so now I have one continuous long strip. So now onto the ironing part. Okay, so just iron your strip really quickly. Part where I joined, I'm going to splay open the seam so it lays flat and reduces the bulk. Iron the entire strip in half and iron it all the way down. So next, take your strip, open it back up, and this time I'm going to take the outside edges and fold them into that center point. And repeat for the other side all the way down. And then you'll take the other side, bring it to the center to meet the other edge and press it. And then you'll fold once again and press. So once you've pressed everything and you're folding everything together, this is where your pins or your clips come in. And just pin everything together. And continue all the way down. Okay, so now that I've pinned everything together, it's time to sew. You're going to stitch down the sides using a 3 millimeter stitch length and get as close as possible to the edge. In this case, I'm going to be using the presser foot as a guide to the measurement of the edge. Back stitch at the beginning and end. Now a stiletto or even a flathead screwdriver can help you with guiding such a small piece of fabric. Okay, so to do the other side, instead of flipping around and going down the other way, you want to go in the same direction as you came the first time. This will eliminate any kind of twisting in the fabric. So bring it back to the beginning where you started originally and get on the other side and go all the way down. Backstitch at the beginning and end. Forgot to backstitch. Okay, on to the fun part. Now that both edges are sewn, you'll take your lobster clasp, thread the fabric through, and pull it down to where the edges will be even. You just want to make sure that when you do that, that nothing is twisted. Okay, so the reason why you wanted to add an extra inch or 1.5 inches to your length measurement that you took at the beginning is for this part. You get to the bottom, what you're going to do is you're going to take one of the pieces of fabric and move it up a little bit, and you're going to take the other piece of fabric and you're going to create about a 1/4 inch hem, or flip it up by a 1/4 inch, and then you're going to cover the raw edge of the other piece of fabric and then come down and you can stitch either side. You also can create a box if you want it to be even more secure, and you can put the X's in the middle. So you just want to make sure everything's kind of lined up and that your raw edges are hidden. Backstitch. I'm just going over the previous stitching and backstitch and repeat for the other side. I'm just going to put a little stitching across to secure it. And your thrift flip is done. Okay, it's complete. And then the last few things are an ironing board. You don't need to know that. An iron and a sewing machine. I'm going to be making some of these. I think they're called lanyards, but lanyards. Yeah, I think. Okay.